Hey guys, welcome back. It's Mitzi, and today we're going to talk about 6 questions according to psychology that you can ask yourself to get yourself to stop people pleasing, to break the pattern of people pleasing. Before we get started, I want to share that I have a free 6-page little workbook that you can get in the link down below on my website, where I give you exercise to help you if you struggle with worthlessness or setting goals or not feeling good enough or not liking yourself. I go through step by step of how to help you to get yourself to improve in different areas. So highly recommend going. It's literally free. Go and get yours today. So when it comes to people pleasing, generally it comes from when you had examples of people-pleasing parents that were people pleasers and they didn't often say no or didn't have healthy boundaries, or you were taught and brought up to people please, to please your parents, to please others, so that way you didn't get in any sort of trouble or deal with any sort of consequences or problems. And if you want to know more about people pleasing, I'll leave it in my video up here. But basically, the motivator for people pleasing is fear-based. It's a very subconscious thing. You don't think like, oh, I'm scared of something happening. And no, it's a subconscious motivator of like, I'm afraid of upsetting others. I'm afraid of being abandoned. I'm afraid of something bad happening. And like I said, it can stem from those childhood wounds of like, you relied on your parents, and if you didn't please your parents and you had an unhealthy dynamic, then what would happen? You would fear being abandoned or not getting your needs met. You're a helpless child, you need your needs met. So there's always this fear, like even if you're an adult, that child wound comes out and still fears being abandoned and feeling like, if this person leaves me, I will be devastated and I will not have my needs met. That's what abandonment wound is. So there's a big fear of rejection, a fear of not fitting in, a fear of being dismissed, a fear of upsetting others, or a fear of not being liked, or like I had mentioned, being abandoned. So fear is that motivator. And so because it's a very deep-seated wound and it's an automatic response to people please, you say yes without even thinking about it. It's always an automatic yes. When someone asks something of you, because you don't want to deal with that guilt, or you don't want to deal with something bad happening, like the stories in your head are telling you like something bad will happen if you don't say yes, it's always immediately yes, oh, I can do this, I can do that. And then when you're needing to deliver, you're in the middle of, you're like, oh my god, like I'm overwhelmed, or I can't do this, or like this is putting me in a bad position, and you just will sacrifice yourself and you wind up in a worse off position. So before you even people please, here are some questions you can ask yourself to help you so you don't automatically say yes. So when someone asks something of you, ask these questions to yourself first. So number 1, ask yourself, what does it give you? What are the positives? So for instance, if your friend asks you to watch their kids, the positives are you'll form a deeper relationship with the kids. Maybe you'll have fun. They will be happy with you. You feel good doing a favor for somebody else. Those are the positives. What does it take from you? Maybe it's after work and you're really drained after work. It will take a lot of energy. Maybe you haven't been dedicating enough time to yourself, and so it would be more time dedicating to other people. You'll be stressed and more likely be more exhausted than you already are. So those are some of the negative. Who benefits from it? Your friend that asks you to watch them, and also the kids also benefit from it. That way they don't have to be willy-nilly on the streets. Who pays the price? You pay the price by watching the kids. You pay the price by taking your time and your energy, and then they will pay the price by saying no, but by you saying no, by them maybe not having someone watch them, or they're put in a worse off position, maybe with someone else that's worse. This is more than just, oh, you pay the price. You also have to think like, what are the consequences to the other people if you don't deliver? The next question is it your responsibility? No, it's not your responsibility. You don't have to watch your friend's kids. It's a nice favor to them. You could say no and have them get someone else you could have your friend get someone else to watch the kids, or not get to follow through on their plans. Is it important? That's debatable. It depends how much that friend means to you. If it's someone that maybe is a friend like that you catch up with once in a while, maybe it's not that important to you and you have no problem saying no. Maybe it's like a best friend and you know that they really need this favor from you, then maybe it is really important to you. So those are some of the questions that you want to ask yourself. Those are according to psychology. The question that I always tell my clients to ask themselves is, how does it affect you? So if it affects you in a very negative way, like if saying yes affects you worse than saying no, then definitely always say no, because you can't put yourself in a worse off position to benefit others. By the time you answer all of those questions, you then will have your answer of being like, okay, I see. It's kind of like a pros and cons thing, but it's deeper rooted questions to see how the situation is going to affect you and how will it also affect them, the way you respond, and then you can base it off of that. And then the last part I would say is, oftentimes if there is a need to say no, just because maybe you don't want to, or maybe because it puts you into negative of a situation, maybe it doesn't benefit you in any regard, and it takes more from you, then the next thing is there's guilt with people pleasing. Because again, going to that childhood wound, there's a lot of oh no, something really bad's gonna happen and I'm doing something bad or I'm wrong, because on the opposite spectrum, if you have like a narcissistic parent or a parent that placed a lot of dependency on you and caused that trauma wound, then there's a guilt. Then they would place a lot of that guilt and say like, oh, you're bad, or oh, like they do a lot of guilt trips. So you've been trained to feel guilt if you say no, even if the other person's okay with you saying no and doesn't have a problem with you saying no. So the next step would be to ask yourself, do I believe I'm doing something wrong, or am I afraid of how the other person feels and if they think I'm wrong? If you notice that you're afraid, again, it's those stories, you fear that the other person is mad, or you worry about how they feel towards you, then you know you're not doing something wrong. So you don't genuinely believe that you're doing something wrong by saying no. There's nothing wrong with saying no. Going back to that question of, is it your responsibility? No, then there's no, you can release that guilt. And that's what you have to do, is like when you notice I am not doing something wrong, or I don't believe I'm doing something wrong, because I always say right and wrong is very subjective, then release it, let it go, and remind yourself over and over again, it's okay. And if they're mad at you, that's a them problem. You have to let people be mad, but again, remember, it's not your responsibility. You don't have to do things that are not your responsibility. Now if it is your responsibility and you say no, that's a whole other story. Then you have to deal with the consequences that you're probably frustrating other people and you're maybe putting them in a worse off position because you're choosing to say no, even though it is your responsibility, and it is causing harm to others. And this is something you'll have to practice over and over again. That's how you rewire your brain, and eventually over time you're gonna feel less and less guilt when you do say no. It is so important to set boundaries and say no, because your mental health needs to be good first before you go out there and you try to help anybody else. People pleasing can feel like a disease and an addiction. It's an addiction that has to be broken, and for you to see you don't have to overly give or take care of others for people to like you or for them to not abandon you. You have to realize that you are worthy of love and support and the people around you without having to give so much. Just you being you is enough. And when you feel that, when you parent yourself, when you love yourself, when you work on how you feel about yourself, your self-worth, which again you can find on my website, the free workbook, then you'll notice little by little those people-pleasing tendencies start to go away. So what do you guys think? Leave it on the comments below. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye, guys. I thought I was charging my camera. It wasn't charging. I actually had a thought. I was like, what if the camera's not charging right now? And I went over and it wasn't charging. Did I manifest that? Who did that? Who did it? Is a ghost playing tricks on me? I need to stop.